Hello, guys. It's me again. I'm back with another scary story. You guys seem to love those a lot. The last one got 86 views. Actually, I never gotten so many views in my life. I was surprised. So I'm doing another scary video today. Probably the next one will be a story time. Probably. So we're doing another story today. Let's just get into it before I explain too much. So, this one's the pup.
Welcome to a new Draw My Life video. Welcome to a new Scary Tuesday, TikTokers. Today, we are sharing
It's a
with you
Thursday.
the adaptation of the original story of a creepypasta you've been asking for a long time, The Puppeteer. I had
It's called
had that
Puppeteer.
doll for a long time. I can't even remember when I got it as a present. It was a China doll with long and blonde curls, bright black
Sounds like
eyes, and a red
Annabelle.
dress. I always had it on my desk, opposite the bed, smiling and ready to talk to me or simply watch me sleep. I will never forget this image, especially because it's one of the last things I saw before dying. My friends in college were nice people, but not very talkative.
Come here,
I would
buddy.
have liked to have more friends in college, but nobody wanted to get close to me. They'd only talk to me when they needed something. Luckily, I spent most of my time studying and doing homework, so I didn't
That's
have the
kinda like
time to
me.
think about how lonely I was. Also, my parents would kill me if they found out I was wasting my studies. No matter how hard it was, I had to stay and do my best to pass the year. With time, I started isolating myself more and more, and the paranoia started. I tried to find help, but nobody had time to listen to a student overwhelmed by exams. I spent hours and hours alone, locked in my room, not leaving it really. I even stopped going to class. However, nobody worried about me. For weeks, my room became my jail.
I have felt like that before. Where no one has cared or whatever, but really in reality, a lot of people care. Just people probably you don't know, probably people that you do know. So there's just a lot of people that care. Um, I thought no one cared for me, but here I am doing freaking YouTube. So.
Didn't need much, and if somebody knocked on the door, I'd yell at them and tell them to leave. They didn't insist the second time. And so weeks went by, and it was only me and my doll. Until that night. After several days without leaving my room, the atmosphere had turned really weird, but the window was broken and I couldn't open it. So I finally decided to leave the room. I had lost track of time, but there was nobody in the hallways and it was dark outside, so I guessed it was late at night. I didn't really care anyway. I went out for a walk. I felt good in the silence of the night, with nobody around, bothering me. When I finally decided to go back to my room, in the darkness of the stairs, I found someone standing there. It bothered.
That is like one of my scariest fears. I'll tell you a mini story. So when I was younger, I was just classically in my room chilling, vibing. And suddenly, I didn't really remember this much as a little kid because my dad told me this. I did not know I actually did this before. I was legit just chilling in bed. Second thing you know, I started crying and my blanket was over my head and I was just crying and screaming. My dad and my uncle come in and somebody else and they ask what's wrong. I legit say there's three bad guys behind you. I was talking about the closet behind them. I was like, what the fuck? I heard this and I'm like, I did this? What? To this day, it gives me goosebumps because, like, what the fuck? Okay, anyways, we're gonna watch this.
I didn't want to have to explain anything to anyone, so I just passed by him. He didn't even move, and I started to get scared. It might be some student trying to scare the freshmen, I thought. But then I heard that unnatural sound, like a hypnotizing and irritating buzz. I was paralyzed, couldn't move a muscle, even if I wanted to. My sight was slowly adapting to the darkness, and I could see what he looked like. He was dressed in black, from head to toes, with a jacket and a hat. His hair was very dirty, if he hadn't washed it for a very long time. When he talked, his voice sounded like a static noise, like a broken radio. He only said a sentence. "You're alone here, aren't you?" It was enough to make my blood run cold.
That's
When he turned to me, I could see his
creepy.
chilling face. He
Ugh.
didn't have any scar or deformation, but there was a strange sparkle in his eyes and in his mouth, a golden shining. I felt that light penetrate my body. It was then that I reacted and ran towards my room. I rushed inside and accidentally fell over the desk and threw my China doll. She fell on the floor and her beautiful face broke in 1,000 small pieces. Suddenly, all the noises around us stopped. There was a total silence. It was only myself and my loved broken doll. I tried to scream, desperate, but no sound came out of my mouth.
What?
I threw myself onto the floor, and alienated, I started to obsessively put together all the small pieces. I grabbed a bottle of glue and tried to fix as best as I could, but each time I tried to glue the pieces, they were destroyed in my hand again. I insisted and insisted. She was my only friend, and she was disappearing between my fingers. I was so exhausted, desperate, and afraid.
That's like that's something she loved. That's kind of was somebody, and then it just vanished. Sucks, but yeah.
That I finally nestled in my bed under the sheets and let myself go. I didn't think he was coming back. This time I was semi-conscious and lived it all as if it was a nightmare, though I still had the control over my body. He came close to my bed and grabbed my hand, squeezing it. I felt like I was floating in the air. Long golden threads came out of his fingers and he nailed them in my wrists, going through my skin until he reached my muscles and hung on to them. I could feel he was taking control over my body, as if I was a lifeless puppet. Truth is, I was letting him do it. I didn't feel any pain. Actually, what I felt was relief, as if I had got rid of a heavy load I had been carrying. My life. It was an amazing feeling. Nothing mattered anymore. Suddenly, he pulled my muscles and my nerves, and all my body shook, reacting with synchronized movements. He knew how to move.
That sounds very sexual. You feel calm. Does that not tell me that this sounds very sexual? But this dude's just controlling me.
Then he started humming a sad song that talked about himself. He introduced himself as the puppeteer, a lonely person who only had the company of his puppets, his only friends. I felt like he was my friend as well now, and he was there to free me of my suffering. I thanked him with a smile. He started to crush the bones in my body, breaking my limbs to be able to manipulate me easily. I could feel
How does that not hurt? Okay, how the fuck does that not hurt? How the fuck does that not hurt? Okay.
him twisting my wrists and my hips until I became what he wanted me to be. My torn muscles had been replaced by golden threads and my limbs were following a macabre dance. The last thing I felt was his warm hand around my neck, pulling slowly but firmly, and suddenly, a firm crack. The next morning, they found my dead body hanging from the ceiling in my room. Around me, no mess or anything weird. Only a china doll lying on the floor, her face all broken among her
He
long
killed her.
blonde curls.
Ew,
If you enjoyed
that's just straight up fucking creepy. Okay, here's another one because like why
I'm glad you're back.
Right. Here's another one, Candyman. Ew.
Welcome to a new Draw My Life video. Dean Arnold Corll, also known as Candyman, was a serial killer from the US who, along with two accomplices, kidnapped, tortured and killed at least 28 young people between 1970 and 1973 in Houston, Texas. He was born
The scary part is, one of my friends lives in Texas, so that's kind of weird.
on December 24th, 1939 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, U.S. He was the first son of Mary Robinson and Arnold Edwin Corll. His mom was very protective, but not his dad, strict and tough with his two kids. He usually grounded them. Corll was a very shy boy who had a rough time interacting with others, though he always cared about the well-being of other people. His parents argued more and more frequently, so they ended up getting a divorce when he was 7. After this, his mom sold the family house, and after moving several times, they settled in Vidor, a small town in the west of Texas. His mom married again, and with her new husband, she started a candy company in their garage. Dean was really involved in the family business since day one, and he worked day and night after he got out of school every day.
That's
There,
awesome.
he was seen as a well-behaved and generous student who used to give candy to his friends. The family business kept growing and growing, so after Dean's graduation, the family decided to move again. The place they chose was Houston Heights, a low-income neighborhood in the city of Houston, where they opened a small store. During his teenage years, Dean never showed any kind of weird behavior. In fact, neighbors would say he was a model boy, kind, who gave candy to the kids in the neighborhood. However, it all changed in August 1964, when he was drafted into the U.S. Army. He soon showed his disdain for the service, and after 10 months he asked for a leave of absence, with the excuse of taking care of the family business. He would be later on named the vice president of the business. When he went back to Houston, he restarted his work in the company, and he moved to an apartment right above the store. It was then that his personality changed drastically. He became irascible and gloomy. With the excuse of the candy, Corll started to spend more and more time with teenagers. In 1967, he became friends with David Brooks, who was 12 years old, one of the kids he gave candy to. The family nucleus of this young boy was totally unstructured, and Corll's attention soon made the kid look up to him as a father figure. Dean's dark instincts sparked in September 1970. Jeffrey Conan, an 18-year-old boy who hitchhiked on the road, became his first victim. Corll picked him up and took him home. On their way there, he gave him some candy, and once they were home, he hit him on the head, leaving him unconscious. After this, he tied him to a chair and tortured him for hours until he finally ended his agony by hitting his head until it was destroyed. Dean was surprised by Brooks in the middle of the slaughter. He managed to blackmail him and keep him silent about it, offering him in exchange a car, a Chevrolet Corvette. The influence of the killer upon the kid was such that he even made a deal with him. He'd give him $200 for each kid he'd bring him. Brooks accepted, becoming automatically his accomplice. His mom's marriage failed again, and the family
Oh, I hate blackmail. Shit, I hate that shit. Damn.
closed down the candy company. So Corll started on a job as an electrician. His mother moved again to Colorado this time, and even though they talked on the phone regularly, she never came back to visit her son. In 1971, David Brooks introduced Elmer Henley to Dean Corll. He also came from a humble family with financial problems. Dean decided he could be a good accomplice, and he offered him again $200 for each kid he would bring to his apartment. Henley's family was so poor that he accepted the offer without really knowing about Dean's intentions yet. Dean carried out most of his murders during the following 2 years. All his victims were teenagers, younger than 20 years old, who lived in the outskirts of Houston Heights.
What is up with most murders going after young people? That shit's just crazy. Like, why the fuck would that fucking happen?
His modus operandi consisted in attracting his victims to his apartment with the help of his
Looks
accomplices.
creepy.
After that, he would offer them drugs, and then he would strangle them or shoot them.
Why does that not surprise me when older guys ask kids if they want drugs. That does not surprise me back in 2020. That does not surprise me.
Though torturing them first, Coral became more and more cruel. He'd cut their bodies, he'd break their bones with hammer, or he'd choke them with plastic bags, lengthening the agony of his victims for hours. Once they were killed, he bathed them in lime and covered them with layers of plastic. He'd tie the ends and wrap his victims as if they were a piece of candy, and then finally he would bury them. However, everything went wrong for him in August 8th, 1973. Hanley had taken a boy to Coral's house, but he had also invited Rhonda Williams, a friend of his. She was 15 years old. Coral got furious with Hanley for taking a girl inside his house, but he managed to calm him down. The two teenagers kept drinking and when they woke up, they found themselves gagged and with their hands tied. Coral threatened Hanley, putting a gun on his temple, but the young boy calmed him down again, promising he would participate in the torturing of the other two, so he set him free. Dean offered him a hunting knife and asked him to cut off Rhonda's clothes while he tortured the other boy. But he refused to do so, and tired of these slaughters, he grabbed Coral's gun and threatened him. They both struggled, and finally he shot his head, but the bullet didn't make it all the way through the cranium. He shot another 5 times until the killer collapsed and bled to death. It was Hanley himself that called the police and confessed not only Dean Coral's murder, but also his and David Brooks' participation in the torture and death of more than 20 teenagers. They collaborated with the justice by pointing out the location of several bodies, and they both were sentenced to imprisonment for life. And this was how Dean Coral went down in history as one of the most heartless serial killers of all the ones we know. And also, now our parents' warning finally makes sense. The one that says, "Don't take candy from a stranger."
Yeah, we're gonna watch this disgusting video. Because why not? I used to have this app. Used to.
Being a barber in today's day and age is much more than just cutting and styling hair and beards.
Ooh, I like your cut, G.
Some barbers spend years mastering their craft and develop some incredible skills and techniques along the way. Ready to see the most incredible barbers in the world? Well, grab your clippers and let's get started. If you can't understand what's going on in this video, well, you're not alone. At first glance, it's hard to guess why this guy is sitting there with a piece of paper in his ear. And why is it set on fire?
I'd be terrified.
Well, at the end, it starts to make a bit more sense. Getting your hair cut and your beard trimmed at the barbershop is old news. Barbers can now even remove earwax. Talk about innovation.
Wow.
Ever heard of the saying, too many cooks spoil the broth? Well, this next video proves otherwise. These 4 professional barbers are able to work together on the same client at the same time. Seems that even he's surprised to receive so much attention.
I'd be terrified if I had that much attention.
If you've ever tried giving yourself a manicure, you know that it's no easy task. Especially when you're trying to cut the nails off your right hand with your left hand without chopping a finger off. But did you know that some barbers have mastered this skill? That must have taken a lot of practice.
Ugh. Ew.
Balding and losing hair is something that most men fear when they age. Because not only is it very common, but it can also make them appear far older than they actually are. Unfortunately, this man seems to have lost the genetic lottery and has started to bald earlier than most. Worrying about balding is a thing of the past because this barber can work miracles.
What's he doing? actually cool.
No, this isn't some kind of Halloween costume or an extreme dare. It is simply a hair removal procedure, and a pretty painful one at that.
Yeah,
However,
who
you've
wants
got to
that?
admit it's extremely satisfying to watch. But we've got to admire the client's patience.
Yeah.
And here's another little hair loss secret that all great barbers know. First, remove all unnecessary hair, and then add new hair. The work is so high quality that you'd never guess it wasn't real.
Bro, that looks dope.
To thread strands of hair through little holes is something that will definitely test your. Compared to this, all other stages of work seem easy, but when you see the end result,
That's
you'll
crazy.
realize that it was definitely worth it.
Okay, I have to go. I'll see y'all later. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Please. And can we get this video to at least 50 likes at most? Since I'm just a beginner and I don't want to ask for so much. I hope you all have a great day. And peace out.